Hi, and welcome to my legislative report. I'm State Representative Julie Harhart of the 183rd District in Northampton and Lehigh County. On this month's program, I want to focus on eliminating a dangerous behavior that we all are guilty of, allowing ourselves to be distracted while driving. In a few moments, I want to show you a very effective video on the subject, but right now, I'd like to introduce Robin Rivera, who is the Traffic Safety Coordinator for the North Central Highway Safety Network. Welcome, Robin.
Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. Robin, can you explain just exactly what you do as a traffic safety coordinator? What exactly does that job entail?
We do a lot of programs through the schools, through elementary school, all the way up through middle school and high school students, all about traffic safety, pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, and of course teen driving safety. Teaching kids to be good passengers at home and staying in their car seats and their booster seats, and also being good passengers on the school bus. We talk about school bus rules. We also talk to mature drivers, go to different programs and speak to them. Everything that anybody wants, a traffic safety program, distracted driving, aggressive driving, DUI, any of those kind of programs we put on.
Talking about distractive and going out there and talking to well, sounds like you go from grade school to high school, way up until the mature
drivers.
drivers. Let's start by explaining exactly what is meant by distracted driving.
Well, there are three forms, basically, of distracted driving. You have the manual, physical, with your hands, taking your hands off the wheel. Visual, taking your eyes off the road, looking at something else besides your driving task. And cognitive, anything that takes your brain off the task of focusing on driving. So anything that interferes with the driving task is basically a distraction.
So and that just happens to everybody. It could be the slightest little thing.
Right. There are plenty of things happening. Billboards, even the new billboards are a distraction.
So what is distracting to a driver varies widely, but could be something as seemingly innocent as a passenger in a car saying, hey, look at that beautiful sunset over there.
Definitely, yes. Passengers, and that's why the law was put into effect, especially with teen drivers, because they're so inexperienced to begin with, and you have too many passengers in the vehicle. That's a big distraction for any driver, but especially for a new driver.
Right, with the teen laws, the driving law that we put in with the 65-hour?
65, yeah.
Find that to be working?
Yes, that's helped a lot.
Good. And how big of a problem is distracted driving?
It's getting to be bigger than the DUI problem, but it's very, very difficult to get an exact count or as far as statistics go, because it's pretty much self-reported by the driver if they're involved in a crash or an incident to the police officer to admit that they were doing something with their GPS or their cell phone or the radio or anything that had their mind taken off the task of driving. So it's very, very hard to nail down an exact number of crashes. But it's a lot of self-reporting and a lot of witness reports as far as crashes go.
That's interesting. So are you saying that drivers should never put themselves in a situation where they might be distracted?
That would be impossible, and it would be an awful lot to ask.
Yeah, because I play the radio a lot, so should I never play the radio or turn the channels or never engage a conversation with the passenger or look at I depend on my GPS a lot.
Right.
I mean, that's all could be a part of distracted driving.
It definitely is. It definitely is. You just have to choose your moments carefully when you're going to decide to take a look at the radio or take a look at the GPS and make sure you're not putting yourself and others at risk.
I know, that's why I like the voice GPS. I don't have to look at it. Right. So, at this point, I want to share a video called Driven to Distraction. It will emphasize and expand on the points that Robin and I have just discussed. Please watch, and Robin and I will be back with some closing thoughts afterwards.
That was really something back there. Did you see it? Both drivers dead. Middle-aged man, young woman in her early 20s. Her whole life in front of her. Not anymore. I just wanted to watch for a minute. I suppose you could say it's my ego, admiring my work, you know? You see, I was in both of those vehicles right up until the brakes locked up. I'm all the things that people do or think about doing when what they ought to be doing is driving. I'm your cell phone. I'm your MP3 player. I'm the quick glance into your briefcase or your purse. I'm every distraction, every stray thought, every momentary glance away from the road. I'm all those things, and I'm riding along in almost every car and truck on the road nowadays. I'm sitting inside the thing from the moment you buy it. Standard equipment, like airbags. I ride along with practically every one of you, almost every day, helping the law of averages catch up to people like those two. That's all it is, the law of averages, playing the odds. After all, every time you let me distract you, you're playing a percentages game. And the percentages always catch up with you sooner or later. Ask anyone who ever stayed in a casino for just one more hand. I've got to admit, that is one of my better efforts. Not just because of the immediate loss of life and property, although that is a respectable bit of damage, but it's not even over yet. Look back there. See how the police have the lane blocked? They're steering all the traffic around it. Every one of those drivers is looking over at the wreck. Who wouldn't, right? They're not watching the policeman or, you know, the road. They're too distracted. I'm very proud of that. But hey, I shouldn't take all the credit. Most of it belongs to our two drivers. That little car right there, the driver's name was Allison Reese. Allison was 21 years old. Good kid, sweet kid. Her folks didn't have the money for her to go away to college, so she was in her second year at the local community college, studying business. She also worked about 30 hours a week at the local pharmacy. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, she would babysit her twin cousins while her aunt was at work. Still living at home? Well, she was. Right about now, her parents are answering the door. Police officer asking if he can come inside for a minute. After all sorts of people suffer from any automobile accident, whether they were in the car or not. The other one was Oscar Thompson, 58 years old, technician for Fabtech Industries. Goes from plant to plant checking the equipment, inspections, calibrations, that kind of thing. Worked a lot of double shifts, especially late shifts. You know, times when the equipment can be down for a little while. Lived alone, except for a little dog he took in a couple years ago. Beagle mix named Wally. In a little while, Wally is going to start wondering when someone is going to feed him. Oscar and Allison were both busy people. My favorite kind. You see, the busier someone is, the more often I get to ride with them. And this is a great time in history for me. You know, 50 years ago, I didn't ride with as many of you. Fewer cars, shorter trips, and nowhere near as much to think about. Sure, maybe a car had a radio. And yeah, sometimes I could talk someone into not paying attention while looking for an address. But nothing like nowadays. So many more cars, so many more interesting distractions inside the cars. My work gets easier every year. And I rode with Allison and Oscar almost every day, reminding them of all the things they needed to do. And today was no different. Here, I'll show you. Let's turn back the clock to earlier today. Okay, right now Allison has just finished her hours at the pharmacy. She's got a couple errands to run before her nighttime accounting class. Her boss kept her working a few minutes late to double-check some inventory paperwork. She knew she wasn't going to have much time to make it to class, but she didn't complain. Remember, I told you, she's a good kid. Hey, Allison, you know how your teacher is about latecomers? You better hurry. Come on, go around this guy. Good. Now, what are the 3 formulas you're supposed to have memorized for tonight? Do you know them?
Total compensation equals C. Total number of man hours worked equals W. Time. Or something like that.
You see? It's so easy. Too much for her to think about, too little time to get it all done. Rush, rush, rush. You people make it so easy for me to get into the car with you. The thing is, you never realize how lucky you are most of the time. You have no idea how demanding driving a 1-ton vehicle at a mile a minute is. Do you know that every 2 miles, the average driver makes about 400 observations and makes about 40 different decisions based on those observations? And for about every 40 decisions, they make a mistake. They usually don't even recognize their mistake because it usually doesn't amount to anything. But they add up. Hold on a second. Hey, Allison, don't you think you should call your folks and let them know that this class usually runs late? You wouldn't want them to worry.
Hi, Mom.
I love cell phones. Love them. They've proven in study after study that cell phones affect you the same way that a couple shots of hard liquor do. They slow reaction time. They limit your focus. And the studies have proven that it doesn't matter whether the phone is handheld or hands-free. They're all equally dangerous.
I'm on my way home right now.
But people who would never dream about getting behind the wheel drunk have no problem using their cell phones while they drive. Anybody who does that is working for me. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you. I'm thankful for anything that takes your eyes or your mind off the road for just 2 seconds. That's all I need, 2 seconds, sometimes even less. You make enough 2-second mistakes, and I win. 60 miles per hour is 88 feet per second. Even when you're paying attention, it takes between 1 and 2 seconds for you to recognize a problem, and another second or two to react. Which means that most incidents eat up the entire length of a football field, even if you do everything perfectly. If I can take your mind off the road for even 1 extra second, that 88 feet can be huge. Just because most of those mistakes don't amount to anything, doesn't matter. My job is to help you make enough mistakes so that we have what's called the inopportune moment. Inopportune means inconvenient or untimely. And an inopportune moment isn't necessarily something that you create. But if you open the door and invite me in, well then. You're the only one to blame for that. The one time that you're glancing at your cell phone when the vehicle in the other lane blows a tire. It's not your fault that the tire blew, but it's 100% your fault that you took your eyes off the road.
Love you too, Mom. All right, bye-bye.
People always talk about luck, but when you're making dozens of mistakes all day long, you're taking luck out of the picture. Take some coworker. She's texting her friends while driving, and she gets into an accident. Surprise, surprise. And then she says, this is terrible. The officer said it was because I was texting.
But I text and drive all the time. I just had a moment of bad luck is all.
I love that. Keep telling yourself that, because the truth isn't that you had a bit of bad luck. The truth is that all of your good luck has finally run out. Almost. So here I am in the car with Allison. I've got her reciting formulas, making cell phone calls, pretty much thinking about everything except the most important job she has at the moment, the safe operation of her vehicle. You have to remember, Allison's not the only one I'm riding with today. I'm riding with almost everyone out here. But for today, the other really important driver was Oscar. Remember I said that Allison made my work so easy? Well, Oscar is a bit of a pushover himself. For one thing, working all those late night shifts, he never gets any sleep. Boy, it sure is gonna be good to get some shut-eye after this shift, huh? What did you get yesterday, 3-4 hours? He's so tired, and that by itself does great things for me. But it's all the other stuff that people do to help themselves when they feel drowsy, because the only really smart thing, pulling over, is the last thing they're gonna do. They play music real loud. Which of course takes their eyes and mind off the road. Maybe a cup of coffee will do the trick. Hey, Oscar, you don't look very alert. Have a cup of coffee. Whoa, almost. And now you throw in the pagers beeping, the cell phones ringing, and it's like I'm the one driving these vehicles. And Allison and Oscar are just little machines cranking out a mistake every few seconds. And when a couple of those mistakes come together, well, this is one I'm especially fond of. I was driving home with this guy, and this guy was really angry. And a pickup goes flying past him on the right, which is of course bad driving. And the intelligent thing to do when on the road with a bad driver is to give him plenty of space, right? But this is what I love about anger. Anger usually pushes intelligence right out the window. So my angry friend floors it to catch up with this pickup. And on the back of it is one of those little bumper stickers. How's my driving? Call 1-800 blah, blah, blah. So I suggest to him that he should report this guy. So here's this pickup doing at least 15 over the limit. And my angry friend pulling up way too close, squinting to read all those little numbers. And then he only needs one more little nudge. I put into his head that he should report this guy right now. So he pulls out his cell phone and starts trying to enter all those numbers. Of course, later on, talking to the police, my angry friend is trying to explain that the reason the nose of his car is in the bed of the pickup is that the other guy slammed on his brakes too fast. There were no major injuries, which was a disappointment to me. But it was still a good piece of work. Anger, following too closely, staring at a bumper sticker instead of the road, using a cell phone. You people are so helpful. Anyway, back to our story. Allison is stressed out, but finally on her way to night class. Her car is now about 2 miles away from Oscar's, who's headed to another plant. 2 minutes, give or take. Hey, you're not gonna do well on your quiz if you're totally stressed out. Where's that CD you like so much that always calms you down? Now they're about 90 seconds apart. I've got to get these two together. The North Side plant, the press inspections. What's the name of that street again? Is it Westway or Nestway? Boy, what crummy handwriting. Is that a W or an N? And now in Allison's car, she's found her music. Let's keep encouraging her to do things for herself. Hey, that cute guy in accounting class has been checking you out lately. You're gonna need some lipstick. Whatever you want is always in the bottom of the bag, isn't it? Keep looking. You'll find it. The road's right there. It's not going anywhere, and there's no car in front of you. And while she's adjusting the mirror, putting on her lipstick and looking at it instead of the road, we need to give one more nudge to Oscar. Wait a second. Weren't you out to the same plant 2 months ago? And the shift supervisor couldn't get his hands on the work order and it turned into this whole big thing? You don't want to go through all that again. Is this the same place? Do you still have the work order from 2 months ago? 20 seconds now. Time for the final touch. Something in Allison's car that she didn't even cause to happen. Oh, great. You don't have time to answer your phone. Just check caller ID, see who it is. Go ahead, look. Allison's eyes go to the phone. That's a second. Oscar drops his clipboard. Papers go everywhere. That's a second. The cars are about 8 seconds from one another. Oscar reaches for his papers, and it causes his truck to drift. Allison's eyes are on her phone and takes the turn too wide. Oscar glances up, knows this is bad. Another day, another dollar. I couldn't do it without you, you know. There are so many ways to keep me out of your car, and so many reasons to do it. You already know most of them. If you're tired, don't drive. If you need to check a map or your directions, wait until you can pull over. If you own a cell phone, either ignore it, or if that's too hard, turn it off before you get in the car. After all, studies have shown that drivers who talk on cell phones are as accident-prone as the ones who drive drunk. If you're going to want a particular CD or MP3 file, find it and load it before you pull out of your driveway. Don't take your eyes off the road to talk to your passengers. And don't stare at your kids in their car seats. You buckle them in, they haven't gone anywhere. Don't eat or drink while you drive. Because like I said before, driving is a dangerous full-time job with dozens of critical decisions to be made every minute. You and your ton of automobile are often covering 88 feet per second. Every time you allow your mind to wander, you're just gambling, hoping you can beat the odds. And someday, you'll gamble and lose. If you keep letting me ride along with you, then someday the inopportune moment will come. And when it does, you won't be the only one who suffers. It's really one moment that becomes a lifetime of pain and loss for a number of people. Of course, it doesn't have to be that way. Look at how the smallest adjustment can make the biggest difference. Like Allison and Oscar. Just one less mistake would have saved both their lives. Imagine Allison's cell phone being turned off. Now she doesn't hear the incoming call, so her eyes stay on the road and her car stays in her lane. She sees Oscar's truck drift, so she slows down. When he overcorrects, he comes into her lane, but it happens 73 feet further away because she slowed down. He regains control in the nick of time.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
But it didn't happen that way, did it? So you see, it would be so easy to keep me out. But you don't want to keep me out. You like me. You like your distractions. You like your cell phones, your MP3s, and your coffee. And shoot, you've been driving for years. You can take a second to fix your hair. You can't live without me. But I can promise you this. You can't live with me either. I'll see all of you real soon. Sooner than you think.
Did you know that the state capitol is not only the epicenter of the Commonwealth's governing bodies, but was once home to 390 preserved Civil War flags? During the war, it was customary for each state to furnish their regiments in battle with flags representing their contribution to the Union Army. After the war, Pennsylvania's military department was responsible for collecting the flags, and in 1872, they were reverently housed in the Capitol. Following the completion of construction on the new Capitol building in 1914, the Civil War flags were removed to the Capitol Rotunda. They were kept untouched in custom-made flag cases until 1982, when the Capitol Preservation Committee initiated its Save the Flags project. Throughout the years, dust and long-term vertical display of the flags had begun to devastate the brittle silk fabric and painted designs. The flags were removed by local textile conservators and were repaired and preserved in storage units that protect the relics from light, dust, and excessive handling. Now you know. Did you know that in the corridors in the first floor of the Capitol of Pennsylvania, there are nearly 400 individual mosaics? The idea for creating these intricate tiles was first suggested by Henry C. Mercer in 1902. A year later, he received the commission to prove 16,000 square feet of pavement tiles for the Great Rotunda and corridors of the new State Capitol building in Harrisburg. Mercer set about designing subjects for approximately 400 mosaics. He chose as his general theme the history of Pennsylvania, and he soon realized that his tiles could tell stories. Although the arrangement seems random, the mosaics are very thoughtfully placed in the floor. The tile sequence is roughly chronological, beginning at one end with the scenes depicting the Native Americans. The mosaics progress into the story of European habitation in the New World and encompass the Commonwealth's triumph through process and intervention. Now you know.
Did you know that Violet Oakley was the first female artist to receive a large commission for artwork done in a United States Capitol building? In 1902, Joseph Houston, designer and architect for the 3rd Harrisburg Capitol building, commissioned Violet Oakley to paint murals for the governor's reception room. He believed that Oakley's contribution would add interest to the building and act as an encouragement of women of the state. Prior to beginning her work for the Capitol, Oakley set out to England to conduct research for her murals. Upon return, she decided to center her artwork on William Penn and the founding of Pennsylvania. Oakley made sure that Penn's ideals of justice and peace could be seen throughout her work. In 1906, she completed 13 murals titled The Founding of the State of Liberty Spiritual and was placed in sequential order around the governor's reception room. These murals were some of the first to be installed in the Capitol. When Edwin Austin Abbey, another artist for the Capitol, died in 1911, Oakley was offered another opportunity to create murals for the unfinished Senate and Supreme Court chambers. Her work on the Senate murals, including International Understanding, was completed by 1919. Oakley then completed the Supreme Court murals, including the Divine Law, by 1927. Oakley is said to be the principal artist for the Capitol, with a total of 43 murals on display. She remains one of the greatest muralists in the United States. Now you know.
I'm State Representative Julie Harhart, and you've been watching an informative video called Driven to Distraction about the dangers of distracted driving. I'm with the Traffic Safety Coordinator for the North Central Highway Network, Robin Rivera. Robin, as we close this program, what do you feel is the most important takeaway from the video?
I think it makes it pretty clear to people that it's very easy to be distracted by a number of things, any number of things, a wide variety of things, not just the texting and driving, but other passengers in the vehicle, things that are going on outside of the vehicle. Your mind is thinking on other things besides driving. So it's very, very easy to become distracted.
Mm-hmm. So the point is really just try to focus on your driving, and
that is the most important task at hand when you're driving, and to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay, Robin, how can people contact you for more information? And you did talk about going into schools and talking to more the mature drivers and such. And how can these people contact you? And what exactly do you explain to them? What are your topics? Is it just distracted driving, or do you have other topics?
Oh, all things traffic safety related, occupant protection, seat belts and car seats. We do car seat checks and car seat classes for new parents and for police officers. We also do programs for teen drivers, like I said, and mature drivers. For businesses, they want to have a program for traffic safety overall, including distracted driving and aggressive driving for employees. Anything to do with traffic safety, bicycle safety, pedestrian safety, we do all those programs.
And they can contact you at what number?
610-248-5437.
Thanks, Robin. That's all the time we have for this month's program. If you have any questions about what you have just seen, or if I can assist you with any state-related problems, please do not hesitate to contact my office. The information will appear in a moment. Thanks for watching Legislative Report. See you again next month.